Hey YouTube, I just wanted to do a quick deck profile on the Ruby Steel deck that I've been using. It's gone through a couple iterations over the last week and since the release of Jafar. Um, I've been testing a couple of the new cards. A lot of it at times is just with the old cards without even using any of the new stuff. Um, and I've looked online to see some of the other decks that have been being run. I've been running Amber Steel Song for the last set, so this was something that I wanted to do just to try and get a little bit better and learn. Um, but you can see here, so these are a couple of the iterations that I had, and I'll start from the beginning. The one that I'm running right now that I had some luck with tonight was this one here, but I'll start with the beginning. So I'll show it this way. You can see it a little bit. So I think that this is a lot of the decks that I was seeing online were this way, and I think that this is the one that I kind of based mine on. I don't think that I ever actually ran this. This was one I believe I got online. Um, and there's a lot of things that I really like in here. A lot of it does make a lot of sense. Seems that this is how it's been for the last couple sets at least. Um, I know that the Sisu's here. I'm not running the Sisu in the new set or in the new one. Pete always has to be there. I didn't really get to test with Raya. I did test a little bit with Maui. Um, didn't play too much with this Radigan. But other than that, a lot of this I am running. So the Robin Hood and the Robin Hood shift I think is really good. Especially for this deck, it has to be there. And then Maui as a 3 of, I've ended recently on using 4, and I'll get into that in a second. And I've tried using the Milan shifts. Um, the Milan shift, that's the 6 cost and the 7 cost. And I went away from that recently, and it feels a lot better, so I'll tell you why. Um, this one had Brawl, Fan the Flames, and One Last Hope. I think is something we'll talk about. But this interaction with the Maui Half Shark is this will win you games. Along came Zeus. They were running Whole New World, and I wanted to run through Whole New World as well. So that's why I was using this one as a base, and then they were using Medallion Weights. Um, just for some card draws, because the main issue that you have with these decks is card draw. So that was this one. Um, I believe the first iteration of this, yeah. So this is the first iteration of this that I had where I was kind of changing things around to see how I wanted to play. So as far as the songs, I was using 4 Strength of a Raging Fire, 4 Whole New World, 3 of One Last Hope to attack ready characters and give resist. Attack ready characters if it's put on a hero. I was using Imperial Bow to give evasive. So what I found originally is I was having a lot of issues into evasive decks because I can't attack into anything, and that's a problem. So I was using Imperial Bow as the first iteration of this. Again, the Fan the Flames, One Last Hope, using that with Maui Shark. I was using 3 of the Maui Shark here. And again, trying to use the Mulan. But some of the major changes. So still Mulan. I haven't taken this out of the deck at all. I think it has to be there for filter. And it actually serves a couple more purposes than that make the deck work a little bit better. But Mulan into Calhoun, into Li Shang, it did feel okay. Robin Hood into the Robin Hood shift, then you're still able to sing Whole New World. I was using the big Queen of Hearts just to have some card draw. This was something, if you're able to attack, then Queen of Hearts is gaining cards every time you can do that. That's awesome, but in practice, people just don't turn the cards sideways. So if they're not questing with their side, then Queen of Hearts isn't doing anything. And most of the time, whoever you're playing against, they start to realize pretty quick that you want them to turn their cards sideways. So they'll wait until they have a way to remove a lot of your cards before they start doing that. And that is the way to play against this deck. One of the ways that this deck falls apart is that it doesn't have card draw, and if you don't have a way of getting that card draw, say you don't see the Whole New World, that becomes a problem really quick. And if you don't get this into the later game where you have 5, 6, 7 ink, it can become very difficult, especially if you don't have cards when you get to that point. If you're playing against someone that has Be Prepared or they're taking things off of your side, it gets really difficult. So this one played okay. This Li Shang is the one that can attack ready characters. If he's damaged, he does more. He has more strength. What was difficult was getting his strength higher than this. So that's why I was playing this Phil. Phil gives your hero character's challenger +1, so he becomes a 3/3 on the next turn. So the next turn when he's able to attack, you can play Phil, he becomes a 3/3, and then you can attack into a ready character and take them out that way. The issue with this is all of the attacking into them doesn't really work to gain you lore until Mushu is out, and that's not for another turn. So a lot of times that interaction doesn't feel as good as you'd like, because on that turn they'll get rid of Li Shang in some way. And then you kind of have no way to make the Mushu have value on that turn. So everything kind of plays through this Mushu to a degree where you get this out, and then any time that you're attacking a character and banishing them, you gain 2 lore. That stacking with Robin Hood is really good, and with Calhoun, because then they would get 4 lore. And especially if you ever get 2 of these Mushus out, then that's really good. So this deck felt okay. I didn't really like the Li Shang. Again, I think that 3 Maui Half Sharks is too few, and I'll get to that in a second here too. And I never really found myself wanting to, or getting into this Mulan, because I was having too much of an issue getting into the late game, and then even when I did, there is a chance if both of you have a really wide board, it could break that loose by having the Mulan singing the One Last Hope onto it to let it attack ready characters. Then when it banishes one, then it gives everybody the ability to attack ready characters. So in theory it works. In practice it was really hard. Anytime you have like a 1-drop that shifts on 5, it's really hard to get this 5 shift out, and it feels really bad when it gets taken off. I don't really like characters that... I do like that characters that have more than 5 willpower. I do not like characters that have 5 or more strength, especially if you're playing into a yellow deck, because they can just get rid of it immediately. They can just use World's Greatest Criminal Mind, and that only costs 3. They can sing it. It feels really bad when they take it off. So I really didn't get much value out of this Mulan. So I can kind of show you where I went after that. Let's go here. So this was what I was running recently. I was trying to play with this Mickey Mouse. I wanted to see if it would work. And I was testing a few other things too. This Ling is really interesting. He gives your hero characters +1. It works really well with Phil, because Phil gives your hero characters +1 challenger. So that can turn like a Mulan here all of a sudden hits for 4. Or Robin Hood, Calhoun hits for 5. This starts taking a lot of things out. I wanted to try this with Mickey Mouse to see if hitting for 3 was really good, especially if you get the Mushu out. Because it would get resist +2, and then it kind of becomes a 3/3, which is crazy for a character that when it banishes another character, you can play something for free. It did feel a little gimmicky. I don't know if I'll ever go back to it and try it, but I just was playing 2 and 2 of the Calhoun. But the main changes in this version of it is I was using Beast instead of the Queen and the Shift, just to try and get some card draw. This one gets removed pretty easily. People are able to ping it pretty easily too to stop it from getting card draw. So they'll just even hit it for 1 damage, with the strength of a Criminal Mind, strength of a Raging Fire, or they'll hit it for 2 damage with Storm, and then it stops drawing. And it does hit really hard after that, but you kind of lose your value, like the reason that it's in the deck. So in theory, it was good. Every once in a while, it worked. But I didn't really like it in the deck. And then the other main change was this Moana that is evasive. So having an option for hitting evasive characters was kind of a big deal into the evasive decks. And I also added 2 of the RLS Legacy. This allows anyone that's here, so it costs 3 to put them in to give the character evasive. And then every character that you add after that, if there's one in here, costs 1 to put in there. So, now I gotta cancel out of here. So that can be helpful, but it wasn't enough by itself, I don't think. So I added this Moana, especially because she has 4 strength. This takes out a lot. If you have a Ling in play, then she's 5 strength. So really, the Ling and the Fill are making it so basically all of your characters can take anything out. And then that way, when you're in the Mushu, you're gaining lore. And you're giving them resist, and they get to stick around for a little bit longer too. That feels really good on the Moana when you're playing against an evasive deck. So again, Mulan Shift underperformed for me. Beast underperformed for me. I did move up to 4 of the Maui Half Shark, so that did feel better. I moved down to 3 Peats. It feels awful to go down from 4, but I was finding that 4 was just too many, which I think is weird. But I'm happier with the 3, and I've seen a couple decks online that are also using 3, probably where I got the idea, and it does feel a little bit better. So this was kind of my almost iteration or final iteration of this, and then this is the one that I am on today. So I'm still trying to min-max here a bit and try and figure it out. But a couple major changes that I made is I have 2 shift lines that can allow me to sing Whole New World on 3. So I took out Smee, which feels blasphemous. But really, I'm not trying to get a lot of lore questers out early. I'm trying to get to late game with as many cards as possible so that I can compete, is how I've found that the deck plays the best. So with card draw being an issue, this has been the easiest way I've found to get there. So Robin Hood on 1, Queen of Hearts on 2. This is the 2 cost Queen of Hearts that has 4 willpower, and if it has damage, then it gains 3 strength as well. But I'm not using it for that. Mainly, this is, if you play Robin Hood on 1, and then they play, say, Cinderella. If you play Queen of Hearts on 2, you kind of don't care if they take out Robin Hood if you have a Queen of Hearts in hand. So if they take that out, you can still possibly have the Queen of Hearts, and if you do, on turn 3, you can shift that for 2 cost, and then go into your Whole New World. So in this one, I have 4 Whole New Worlds. And you can see already some of the songs. There's a different mix of the songs down here now. So the optimal line that I was playing, or that I feel comfortable with right now, that really, really helped was Robin Hood, Queen of Hearts, and then shift Queen of Hearts or shift Robin Hood into Whole New World. That's very disruptive if you're on the play, because they've only played their first 2 turns at that point, and they probably mulliganed. They looked at their cards, they mulliganed into a hand that they thought that they could use, probably had some sort of a curve. And if you are resetting that for them, you're resetting your hand after your 3rd turn, and they're resetting their hand after their 2nd turn. And that feels really bad, I think, and sometimes you can brick their hands and kind of win that way. So that's been really good. The other thing that I did accomplish today was Robin Hood, Queen of Hearts on 2, and then Robin Hood shift on 3. And now there is a 5-cost character on the board and a 2-cost character on the board, which is 7 for Sing Together. So I added 2 of the Beyond the Horizon for that instance. Or later in the game, it can be helpful too, and I can get to that. But then I played Beyond the Horizon, because I only had 3 cards in my hand anyway. And maybe 4. I'd have to do the math again. But I discarded their hand and my hand. I'm basically in the same position I was in before. They, again, now on their 2nd turn, they've lost all their cards, and now they only have 3 cards. I basically won the game that way because the rest of the game was anemic for them. So that's a crazy interaction. I think that this might be too much to be using 4 Whole New Worlds and 2 Beyond the Horizons, but I want to be able to see these Whole New Worlds as often as possible if I have shifts out there. So maybe not. I think that this Beyond the Horizon is kind of a tech card for later too. If I ever have only, 7 ink out, this is something that can maybe take control of all of their card draw. Say they have, 8 cards in their hand and I only have a couple. Even if I have 3 and I really like my cards, you could just use all your ink to play Beyond the Horizon and just empty their hand, leave your hand alone. They draw 3, and now maybe they've bricked their hands too. So this is a way of controlling what they're doing and maybe interrupting what they're trying to accomplish. So I do like this card. I wouldn't add more than 2, though. I think 2 is a comfortable number for that. So that's the start of the game. The other line that you can play, I talked about this earlier, is Mulan into Calhoun into Ling. Ling gives both of them +1, which feels really good for Calhoun. Calhoun can now take out Daisy Duck by itself. Mulan can take out a lot of 3 willpower characters at that point, too. If they don't turn sideways and you're getting to the next character, you can use Phil. So I have Daisy or Donald Duck in here. This was something to try and close out a game. I actually think I'm going to go back to Phil. So the Phil in this spot is really, really good because it's also giving strength to both of these. Mulan becomes a 4-1, which is kind of crazy. And Calhoun becomes a 5-2 with resist. So that's a really good interaction with if this is Phil instead and then Ling. The reason I was using Phil, though, was mainly to close games. So I was playing a lot of games against Blue Steel, and they don't want to turn sideways either. So we would kind of go turn for turn and try and build our board as best we can. Have little interactions here or there, but not leave anything exerted so that the other person could start taking things out. Especially them. They don't want me to get Mushu out and then start attacking. So in that instance, I feel like Donald Duck could be really good because you could get it out. He's a hero. So he's a hero, pirate, captain. So if you're using Smee, the captain's pretty good here too. But he is a hero, and he's a 3-4. Especially if you have Ling out. Now he's a 4-4, so he can take out a lot of stuff. If you have this out on turn 5, or I guess not turn 5, but later, if you get this to stick for a turn, on the next turn, you could use One Last Hope. Again, chosen character gets resist +2. If the hero character is chosen, they may also challenge ready characters this turn. So you can put that onto Donald Duck. Now, Donald Duck can challenge a ready character. During your turn, whenever this character banishes a character in a challenge, your other characters get +1 lore this turn. So, if you have 6 characters on the board, because this does happen, where neither of you are turning sideways, Donald Duck takes something out, and now all of those 6 get 1 extra lore when they quest, and now you've put a lot of pressure on them and kind of broken the seal. Maybe out of those 6, they would maybe quest for 8 normally. Now you add 6 more to that. What's 8 and 6? 14. So yeah, now you're questing for 14. That's a huge turn. So I do think that this could be good. In action, I did really like the Phil, though, and getting that extra challenger was helpful. Phil also gives you lore when you play hero characters. So in some of the games I ran into that were going late and I only needed 1 or 2 more lore, you could play a Phil, maybe even a whole new world, or have someone sing a whole new world and just play a bunch of your hero characters and get the last couple lore that way. So that's what this spot that I'm using is, just a tech spot to close out games. And it's just 2 different ways of doing it, either by questing or by playing characters and then giving them strength. At the moment, I like the Phil. I could be convinced either way, though. I just don't have these Donald Ducks, so I didn't get to play them today. And I really didn't miss it. So I think that the Phil is pretty good, too. I might need to try both and see. Again, Pete, I have 3. Talked about that a little bit earlier. Moana is there for evasive. Mushu, again, this is how you can gain a lot of lore all at once. Queen of Hearts, this is really good. Even if you just get this out and you don't sing Whole New World, if you're able to start attacking characters, even if you use One Last Hope once or twice on one of these smaller characters or Calhoun, challenger ready character, you gain some lore off of Calhoun, and you also get to draw off of Queen. So I do like this Queen better than the Beast, just because the whole deck's identity is to be challenging. So if you have any opportunities to challenge at all, you're getting card draw while you do that. So it synergizes really well with the Mushu and what the rest of the deck is trying to do. I already talked about Robin Hood. I changed Maui to 4 of instead of 3, and I really like Maui at that cost. Again, now that I'm playing Whole New World as early and often as possible, I'm getting into this Maui with cards in hand pretty often. And it works really well with this Fan the Flames and the One Last Hope. So I can go over that interaction. If you've been playing this or you've looked at anybody's decks online or their profiles, a lot of times they do go over this. This is kind of one of those. It's not an infinite loop, but it kind of feels that way at times, where you can wipe an entire side of the board with just Maui, One Last Hope, Fan the Flames, and you're gaining a lot of lore while you do it. So, especially if you have Mushu out, that'll just close a game. So how that works. You want to use Maui, get Maui down. Whenever this character challenges another character, you may return an action card from your discard to your hand. Right? So every time he challenges another character, you're getting something back. What I like to do is find a way early in the game to get Fan the Flames into my discard. The easiest way to do that is on your mulligan. If your mulligan hand has a Mulan and it also has a Fan the Flames, I keep them together. And the reason I keep them together is you play Mulan on one, don't ink the Fan the Flames. Play Mulan on one, use Fan the Flames to discard it, get it into your discard to get that card for free, whatever you pulled off of Mulan. And now Fan the Flames is exactly where you want it to be. Now it's in your discard. And then what happens is you're in a match with, say, an aggro deck. I've actually run into this a couple times where like the Chernadog deck has 5 characters, 6 characters out, and you're at the point, by the time that you have Maui out, you have 7 ink by then, right, on the turn where you can actually use Maui. Maybe they haven't been turning sideways because you have Mushu out, so they don't want to give you free lore, and you have a Maui out now. If they don't get rid of this before that turn, and you have a One Last Hope in your hand, you can completely clear their board. So it works best with Mushu because you're getting 2 lore every time you do it. But just clearing their board by itself, you'll still gain some lore from using the Fan the Flames over and over again. But basically what you do, if you have a character that can sing One Last Hope, that can be better. Or you can just hard cast it, and then you'd be able to get rid of, 4 characters. But basically you play One Last Hope, gain resist. Maui Shark is a hero. They can challenge ready characters this turn. So Maui Shark challenges a ready character. They have resist 2 from One Last Hope. If Mushu's out, they have resist 4 between the 2 of them. And it attacks into the first one. When you played the One Last Hope, you got a lore for Maui Shark's secondary ability here. Whenever you play an action, gain 1 lore. And then you pull Fan the Flames out of the discard that you put in earlier with Mulan or when you Whole New World, something like that. Again, I try not to ink these. I try and get them into my discard as early in the game as possible so that this is a possibility later. You pull this out. Fan the Flames only costs 1 ready chosen character. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. So you play that on Maui. You get 1 for Maui Shark's ability. Still is able to challenge ready characters from One Last Hope. Still has resist from Mushu and One Last Hope. If you took that character out with Mushu out, you gain 2 lore from that. And then you just complete that cycle. Maui into the character, gain 2 lore, grab Fan the Flames, play it for another ink, gain 1 lore off of Maui, challenge Maui into another character, gain 2 lore, and then repeat it. And then once you take out the very last one, you don't grab Fan the Flames, you go and you grab your One Last Hope again. So now you can start that cycle over again with Maui because your Fan the Flames is where you want it. It's in your discard. That's something that you can make a mistake with pretty easily, I think, if you brought Fan the Flames in as your last one. Then if they don't turn sideways on their next turn, you're not able to challenge the ready character, so you can't start the loop again. A lot of times this will close it out if Mushu's out. If Mushu is not on the board when you do this, remember, you still have resist 2. Maui Half Shark still has 5 willpower, so it's still hard to take it out. I usually start with the lesser strength characters that I know aren't going to deal any damage to it, and then that way I know if I make a mistake with my math, I'm at least getting through as many of them as possible before something maybe on accident takes me out. I'm going to make mistakes, so I try and do it that way. Again, starting with the lowest strength and moving up from there. So anyway, that's the cycle. That one beats It beats a lot of aggro decks. It also closes games when you're at a stalemate with somebody. Maui's evasive, which is really good, which means that they can attack basically into anyone. This is a way of getting around characters that have ward because you're not trying to cast anything on them. You're doing it on yourself. So you one less hope yourself, do the whole cycle. You can clear their board and you basically win. Again, you're kind of trying to move into there, but that's not the only way to win. I've won games getting 2 Mushus out into a Robin Hood, and then use a Fan the Flames on the Robin Hood, go into something else. Now you've gained, what is it, 2, 4, 6? So you gain 6 lore every time it did that if you had 2 Mushus out. You could gain 12 lore in one turn, and I did do that today. So that's kind of a big turn. What else? So that's One Last Hope. I don't think that you can run less than 4. I was trying to run Pick a Fight. I think the difference, though, why Pick a Fight, even though it's cheaper, I like that you can sing this. So if you have like a Pete out or a Ling, you can sing this One Last Hope and save all of your ink. Or, excuse me. Yeah, all of your ink. And then that way you know you have enough to keep playing Fan the Flames because it does cost 1 per turn. Somebody asked me a question earlier today about whether or not you'd want to find a way to get Rush onto Maui. I think the answer is no. And the reason for that is you're spending 6 to play it, so you're not going to have enough ink left over to do the cycle that you want to do, and you're kind of leaving it exerted at that point. So it's better to do it on 7. Oh yeah, I see your question there. I can post it in a second once I'm done going over this. I'll send you the link to it. And I'll put it, I'm recording for YouTube. So I'll also put it in yeah, you got it. Yeah, I'll put it in the YouTube description. The other thing that I had somebody think that it was strange, and I think I do too. The deck feels better with only 2 of these Strength of a Raging Fire. So I thought that I was going to be using a lot more removal. But having 4 Strength of a Raging Fire, a lot of times it felt awkward, and I'm not using it all that often. Sometimes it's really good to get rid of a big character. But other than that, it's not what the deck is trying to do. And a lot of times in those instances, you don't really want to be turning something sideways anyway. So you either have to hard cast it or... yeah, a lot of times it just ends up being ink. Like, I'll keep it around as a just in case. But yeah, it feels a little better with 2. I added 2 Pirate's Life. This is kind of a closer. I've had a couple games that get down to like 18. And we were just kind of going back and forth where they had a lot of removal. If they didn't have their own Pirate's Life or Pete or anything to stop it, you could just Pirate's Life and win. And I did win a game with that. Just top deck to Pirate's Life. Or no, I played a Beyond the Horizon with all of my ink because it was the only card I had in my hand. And then the next turn, I just played the Pirate's Life and won. So I think that this can close games that you normally wouldn't have won, or if you're not able to get a character to stick. So that's really helpful too. I'm playing Ruby Steel 2, but without Shark, but with 7 Mulan. But it feels weak, especially against... Yeah, that's what I was talking about too. I was playing it with the Mulan shift, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I actually think... I got to test this today against what I think are some really good players. And it did really well. So I'll finish going through this, and I'll kind of go through like how some of the matchups work. Beyond the Horizon, again, it's really good early. Again, that interaction that I had where I had Queen of Hearts, so Robin Hood, Queen of Hearts, shift Robin Hood, and then use Robin Hood and Queen of Hearts, or I have the shift line for Queen of Hearts here too, so I can either get the Whole New World, or I can use Robin Hood and Queen of Hearts for the Beyond the Horizon. That won a game, just being able to sing Beyond the Horizon on turn 3. It's very, very disruptive. And then the RLS Legacy, I left this here for 2 reasons. One, I like the ability to give evasive to characters to take some of them out, right? Like, because this can be disorienting to a degree. You can kind of start picking off some of their characters with your Mushu. If you put this out, and either they attack into it because you're kind of begging them to attack it and turn sideways. Or you can move one of your, like Calhoun or Robin Hood, into here, use one of your other characters to sing One Last Hope onto them and have them attack a character. And if you have like a shifted Queen of Hearts, you can draw a card. So this is helpful, especially when you get into like a stalemate, or if you're playing against the evasive decks. This, along with the Moana, I think is necessary to be able to play into those decks. And that's it. So the matchups that I ran into today, and kind of how they played. If you're on the play, you can do really well. Kind of if you get that curve with the Robin Hood, Queen of Hearts, and the shift line into Whole New World, you can actually get going fast enough, early enough, and disruptive to start getting ahead. And once you do, especially once you get to this Maui interaction, you can start taking stuff out pretty good. Again, this Ling can be helpful with Calhoun because then it can take out Daisy Duck by itself by adding the strength. Same thing with using Phil instead of this Daisy Duck or Donald Duck. If you use Phil instead of Donald, then Phil is also giving Calhoun the +1 strength, so that can be really helpful. When they're on the play, I think Steel Song just does what Steel Song does. It feels really bad when they start removing everything you put out. If you put out a Robin Hood, they play a Cinderella, you play Queen of Hearts, you're hoping that when you're on the play, you're kind of ahead still because you'd still be able to shift the Queen of Hearts or the Robin Hood. They have to pick what to do. And in that case, there's nothing they can do. They can only take out your Robin Hood. So in that case, when I'm on the play, I try and get this Queen of Hearts shift instead of the Robin Hood. When you're going second, you're kind of at their whim. Like if you start with this, with the Robin Hood, and they've already had a Cinderella, next turn, they sing on it, and then they play their 2 cost that sings for 4. You play Queen of Hearts, they play their Zeus, and then at that point, it doesn't feel great. Like it's hard to keep going from there if they're still populating the board, but you've lost all your characters. But that's just how Steel Song works. So you kind of have to, play into that as best you can and make them have it. And if they don't, you can shift, and then you can kind of start being disruptive. But other than that, it can be a little tough. And then the other line, again, Mulan, Calhoun, Ling into the Phil that I would play instead of this Donald Duck. That's what I'd... that's like the other line that works really well. The other deck I played into was the Chernodog. Basically, as soon as I had this Fan the Flames, I got it into my discard, or I just left it in my hand. I was playing towards this Maui and trying to get Mushu and Maui out together. So I even inked on a turn where I could have played, I think it was like a Ling. I think I inked the Ling and just didn't play a character on that turn because it was more important that I had ink to get up to the Maui than it was to ink the Maui, play the Ling, and then hope that I got something later. I knew my win condition basically was to get this Maui. So I had Mushu and Maui in my hand and just kind of tried to get up to it. And then I had the One Last Hope and Fan the Flames. And then, they're up to 16 lore. They have the whole board filled. You do that combo with that on that turn, and then they can't recover from it. And then after that, any characters that they play, you just do it over and over again. So unless they played like a Baloo, right, that's the only way that they're going to gain lore at that point, and you're gaining lore every turn after that. So you just kind of end the game. I had one that happened today. I played against a red-blue. Red-blue felt okay, and I think it's as long as you get that Whole New World or the Beyond the Horizon off in the first 3 turns, it's very disruptive to that deck because they're trying to mulligan into their ramp. And if they don't have their ramp, especially if you're on the play, or you just randomize their cards that they have, that can brick them pretty good. So that's, option 1. Option 2, I like to play Mulan, Calhoun into Pete. Basically to stop their ramp a little bit on that turn. But it just kind of depends. It depends on what you have. But again, I think the optimal line for this still is Robin Hood, Queen of Hearts, and then Queen of Hearts or Robin Hood into Whole New World. I think that's how this deck seems to play the best. So if you can make that interaction happen, and it happens more often than you think. That's why I added the 2-cost Queen of Hearts. Um, I basically mulligan into that as hard as possible, because there's enough 1-drops in here and 2-drops to at least get started if you don't get what you're looking for. But if you have like the 5-cost Queen in your hand, I'll even mulligan everything else away and hope for this 2-cost and just try and get that interaction out there. Um, Red blue's still hard. You want to make sure you have as many cards as possible in your hand for when B prep comes out. So playing around that is a little tricky, but I think that just comes with experience. So I'll learn a little more as we go. And then the only other thing, um, yeah, I can talk about Lumiere a little bit too. I played into red, so I played all different decks tonight. So I played against red purple last. Um, and that one worked really well too, especially once you get this late. Again, it's just like red blue. You're trying to get into as many cards as you possibly can have for when they be prep. Because if that happens, you have a really good curve and you can continue doing what you were doing with getting shifts out, and then you can whole new world, or you can use Beyond the Horizon and just empty their hand or give it to yours. Even if you have 7 ink and on a turn you have Beyond the Horizon and they have a ton of cards and you want to stop that, you just hard cast it, kind of ruin their hand, and then make them have it. So I think in that way, Beyond the Horizon has changed this deck quite a bit, and I think that's why this has to be here. As far as what's changed, that makes this more viable, I think Beyond the Horizon is the one. I've tried it with Desperate Plan. I tried it with Doc in there, and I just don't like it. I think that this setup right now only requires a little bit of tweaking because it operated really well in person. Lumiere. So Lumiere adds, is it 1 strength or 2 strength to everybody? And it's a 2-cost. Basically, I I don't think there's room in the 2-cost for it. I'm already not using Smee on purpose. Um, I don't know that I could use a 2-cost to try and get more strength, and I don't know that it's required either. And here, I'm actually going to edit. I'll add the fill back because... Where is it? Here. Let's take out Donald Duck. I'll put fill in. Yeah, so this is the final deck list, and I'll send you a link to it too, and I'll put it in the YouTube description. Um, but really, I did test Lumiere a little bit. I didn't save the deck. I tested it. I think I tested it in Inktable just to see how it kind of comes out. Um, but I don't want it as a 2-cost. I like the Ling. The reason I like the Ling too is that it's a 3/3, so it's not as easy. It doesn't get like brawled away. It also hits pretty hard, so it's nice that it can take things out too if you need to. So that can be like your last challenge. You can challenge with maybe like your Robin Hoods and Mulans and do 3 damage each. And then as your last challenge, you can trade something with Ling. Um, and then that way it's also doing 3 damage. Uh, Lumiere just felt a little clunkier. It's not bad. And I think it's especially good too, like if you're later and you want to be able to use these smaller characters, I think Lumiere could work. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. I like that. I like this curve because you'll see here I'm only using 3 Pete and 2 of the Ling. So really, I only have 5 cards that kind of hover in this 3-cost range, and that's kind of on purpose because there's some other cards you can use. You could use another 2-cost and then a 1, and that only works if you're getting a lot of card draw. But the Ling works really well. It's just I'm only using it in the circumstance where I didn't hit the Robin Hood shift or the Queen shift. And that's why I'm running both so that it happens more often. But that's it for this. We can talk a little bit more about this on Twitch right now. If you're watching on YouTube, I do stream every so often on Twitch, so you can come and follow me just at Gherkin. But anyway, if you like the video, please like it. Otherwise, I will see you again.